Well, good evening. Good evening. It's Sunday night, and it's that time of the night for the Power Hour brought to you by Perfect Balance Clinic. Tonight, my guest is Mike Leonard. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Indeed, a pleasure. We have such an, I should say, an interesting, discussion, lined up for our viewers tonight. We're going to be looking at, coach development and issues with that, and the challenges, the opportunities that's there. Because Mike himself is involved a lot with coach development. We're also going to be looking at coaching teenagers, in this, environment that we find ourselves in, and what challenges coaches are facing with that because of the change in the mode of coaching that has been brought about by the pandemic. But first of all, before all that, we're going to look at the potential competitions that are being mooted, just to finish off the season, give the athletes a bit of a runaround. That will be our first discussion. But first of all, Mike Leonard, welcome, and could you just tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, indeed. I've been coaching for about 30 years, actually live and coach in Milton Keynes, the grand metropolis of Milton Keynes, not far from the concrete cows I live. Had various roles within England athletics in the past, coach mentor, national coach mentor, and I'm a regional lead as well at the moment. Do some tutoring as well. So yeah, I've been around for a while.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. And we're just glad to have you here so that we can get as much as we can from all the whole of 30 years of coaching that you have on your profile, as it were. And just hear what views, what tips, what advice you can give coaches out there. I think, and because you've been around the block for so many years, and what you think about the competitions and the situation that we find ourselves in. So yeah, we're looking forward to hearing all that, Mike. But first of all, tell us about what is it looking like, with the competition for the season.
Well, I ought to sort of firstly say, because I'm coming on here in a personal capacity, and not sort of speaking for England athletics or UK athletics or anything, but obviously have some insight into it. People will know or should have seen that England athletics put some new guidelines out the other day, based on the latest government guidance. They're looking to do various competitions. If you have a look on the England Athletics website, there is a plan. They've actually taken out the England Athletics Championships for any age groups on the track, but there are things sort of building up from local meetings, etc., into obviously for track athletes, things like the British Championships at the beginning of September. So those are the sort of competitions that are going on. There seems to be some debate around middle distance races. Again, I was thinking of the track and talking about staggering starts on some of them and running some of them in lanes. 800 meters in lanes. It's a very complicated documents because of course they've released training guidance as well. So yeah, if anyone wants to actually have a look at that, that's have a look on the England Athletics website to see the actual competitions that are planned, and obviously all of the sort of safety regime around it all. Because as you can imagine, again, you know, say with the track stuff, you know, sprinters, they're saying, you know, one lane apart isn't enough type of thing. So, you know, in training as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
you're only getting three or four people in a race.
Mm.
There's things like that, and then obviously sort of things about entering and leaving tracks and keeping people socially distanced, all of that. So yeah, complicated times we live in, really.
Indeed, indeed, Mike. Complicated, but that's about the competitions, and I'm sure you know it's an unknown. It's a new thing for everyone.
Yeah,
Officials, athletes, coaches, parents, spectators. It's going to be a new experience for everyone. And yeah, we just you know wish the best. You know, wish for the best. You know, as
yeah,
everybody plays their part.
yeah,
You know, to ensure athletes have got an opportunity to compete, and yet at the same time, you know, all the safety measures, you know, are being observed, you know, to the, you know, to a T, if we may call
yeah.
it that way. Yeah. Let's leave the competitions there for a while and look at the athletes and the coaches now. You know, what does it mean, you know, for athletes and coaches? They've not been training, you know, regularly because of the lockdown and the facilities. The trainings, that some of most of the training tracks are not open yet. So what does it mean for the coach and the athletes? You know, what are the likely issues of this fast track training, because the competition has been put about 4 or 5 weeks away?
I I think is to make sure you're ready is the first thing, isn't it? I think yes, you might want to go into the competitions, but you know, for athlete and coach to make sure, as I
Mm,
say, they're ready, they feel ready to go in whatever level of competition it is that's been thought about. Obviously, as I say, the competition is going to start at a lower level,
mm,
which helps. But you know, thinking about, you know, physically, as you say, you know, people have been training on grass, training at home, and doing, you know, circuits, anything like that. Um, Getting back to a track is difficult.
yeah.
You know, to immediately go on to a track, think about running fast. You know,
Mm,
notching up those paces a bit. Um, it takes time. You know, you need to think about that and plan your training accordingly. So if you're earmarking a particular event, particular comp, think about how many weeks or whatever you've got to
mm,
that. How are you going to get there? And realistically think about what kind of shape are you going to be in, and if you're not in good enough shape, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. And thinking about,
mm,
obviously, you know, some of the physical stuff, you know, pulling something, or you know, doing any sort of physical injuries, but also psychologically as well. I think that's the other thing. You know, athletes are gonna go in for a competition and you know, not do as well maybe as they thought they might. And if they don't do that, how is
yeah.
that going to affect them? I think you've got to think about all those things as well. I think if depends, you know, it's horses for courses on the psychological side of things. If you've got a thick skin and you're just going into it for, you know, social, or you know,
Yeah.
those sorts of reasons, or just want to just want to get out there and compete because nobody's done that for a little while,
Mm,
then that's fine. You know, as long as then you don't fall apart if you don't do as well as you thought you might. So I think that's another, you know, real aspect to
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Y- You know, a normal season would, you know, give both the coach and the athletes, you know, various options on their competition strategies, you know, in terms of, you know, their race plan. relative to whatever their season's goals are, for that season. And so track and field, being track and field, things are very structured, within that training plan. They have their, general training, they've got the pre-competition training, and then they've got the competition themselves, and then they've got the specific competitions, which is not the case at the moment, in the situation that we are in. So what does a coach and an athlete, what strategies do they use now? How do they decide? Do they go, this is competition to compete, or are they getting into this competition to train? What angles should they be taking?
I think different people will want to do that differently. I think you'll get both of that. People will go into a competition to train. As I say, I think you need to be in good enough shape to do yourself justice and not get injured. Obviously, yes, the structure has completely gone now in terms of the season. They've obviously extended it away, talking about sort of end of September or whatever to put some competitions on, or thereabouts. So again, I think if you earmark some easier competitions, some low key stuff when you think then you're going to be reasonably ready, if you like, to get onto the track, and obviously the sort of training, and everything needs to be condensed a bit. Hopefully athletes are going to be in reasonable general shape. If again, they've been doing some circuits at home, doing flexibility work, all of these sorts of things, any kind of strength stuff, and also running on grass, general aerobic fitness. But I suppose the one thing I didn't say earlier, obviously my particular events are the speed events, sprints and hurdles. For the sprinters, hurdlers, the jumpers, etc. Upping those paces, I think is the difficult one. That's the one to really watch, if you like, be careful about. My track is open. We've done about 3 weeks or so at the moment on the track, gradually just building up the pace. First on the track, keep your trainers on. I don't want to see any spikes particularly. Let's just get out there, just a nice easy session, get through that, then start building up the speed, introducing the spikes. Obviously, at the same time, trying to keep the fitness side going as well. With circuits, they can become more specific to the events that you're doing. All of these sorts of things. I think know where you're trying to get, know how long then you've got to get there, and then work accordingly as to what you're going to be able to do within that time.
Yeah, you're giving out a fairly cautious message out there, for athletes, and both athletes and coaches retaining to track training and competition, of course, on the track. Would you like just to share broadly, briefly, for coaches and athletes and maybe even parents out there who would be wondering, why are you so cautious about that? What are the potential issues, transitioning from grass onto the track? What sort of issues would there be?
Well, certainly, the tracks are harder than people think. I think it's a different ball game. If you go back to the track, try and do too much as well. That's the other thing. I've been talking about different paces, volumes as well. Going from whatever you were doing on the grass, and then trying to up volumes or up speed or both, even
Mm.
then, um, you've got the potential risk for just getting injuries. Again, for the speed athletes, hamstrings and obviously sort of shins and all the rest of it.
Mm.
A lot of it depend on what you've been doing. What have you been doing for the last 3 months? Have you just been stuck on a fairly hopeless grass surface?
Yeah.
There have been faster grass surfaces. You hear about people training on the local cricket pitch, all of those, that thing, which is better. You might have been doing a bit quicker, but
Yeah.
I think that's caution, isn't it? Make sure you haven't, you're not overdoing it. I think the worst thing is to, oh, the comps are on. Yeah, let's get into the competitions. Yeah, oh, bang, hang on, and my hamstring's gone.
Yeah.
Or I've hurt myself in some way. Or as I say, well, that was hopeless, wasn't it? I thought I was going to do much better than I
Mm.
than I actually did. And I think hurting the psychological side isn't a good idea either.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Now, athletes and in some cases, some coaches would be uh, they usually train and compete with the targets in mind. Target goals are are a very important element within track and field. What would you say to coaches and athletes regarding that perception and that culture, for this season, as it were? Is it the time to go for personal best? Is this the season to put down a marker, as it were? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I think go out and enjoy it.
Yeah.
We've been stuck inside, or certainly again the athletes. First obviously stuck inside with a lockdown, getting back to things, haven't been able to compete. Go out and enjoy it. That's the first thing, isn't it? Feel the surface between your feet. Get
Yeah.
down there and get on the track and try and compete. Then, as I say, as long as you're able, and you're prepared. But yeah, do that. I think again people get carried away with then. Yeah, I'm going to come out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the other. But
Mm.
if you just go into it, especially at first, in it, you might find you're flying. you know, it's
Yeah.
some of the athletes, yeah. If they think they're doing very well, then you could again cautiously think about, well, what kind of time might I get,
Yeah.
or distance, or but I think, yeah, it's going to be too short. You've got the complications of
Mm.
nobody's competed since the indoor season, which is 4 or 5 months gone.
Yeah.
Um, and some, if some didn't actually compete indoors, they might not have run for almost a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I think expectations is managing expectations as well as all the other stuff.
Mm. Yeah. No, brilliant, Mike. There. As you talk, when you mentioned, the in the season there, maybe I could just find out, what your views would be, with this season as it turned out. How do coaches and athletes plan then to bridge it up with the next season, seeing that part of the recovery and the rest period will be being used for competition this season? How do people restructure their season, leading up into next year, into the next season next year?
Yeah, as you say, yeah, that's kind of all changed as well, isn't it? Where if people are depend again how much they've all been doing so far as well. Whether you then okay, if the season ends in at the end of September, do you want to
Mm.
then just have a couple of weeks break? I'm sure athletes won't actually want to do that. They want to get into into something, because
Yeah.
they've had, completely different for the last 3 months or whatever it is. So yeah, I think that is the planning process to go through there, trying to, a lot of coaches as well, to be honest, some
Mm.
athletes kind of come out now during this summer, do a run or so, just as
Yeah.
I say, to to have said that, they've competed, um, but not, then, want to get back into the winter training. So I think a lot is going to depend on your philosophy as well there, how much competition, even if you are
Mm.
going to compete, do you want?
Mm.
Some of mine, I've asked mine whether they're interested in competing,
Yeah.
uh, and some are thinking about it. I've had no real outright yes, we've got to do it. But some, I'm going to see how I'm doing. There are others, no, no, I'm not going to be ready.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So again, plan it slightly differently then for each of them. The ones who aren't going to compete, we can work on some more specific fitness at the moment. Then go into then what will be the winter training, and
Yeah.
then I suppose it depends again. Then the different coaches say different things. I know about the indoors. Then
Mm.
some will think again, well, we've not had much chance to compete. I want to go indoors, or I'll do a little bit now. I'll do some indoors, and then we'll come out in the summer.
Yeah.
All the permutations around there, as I say, won't compete now. Want to do the indoors because we haven't competed for a while.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a case of each individual athlete talking to their coach.
Yeah.
We're going to come on to communications actually after for a while, and especially with a teenager.
Yeah.
Talking to the coach and working it through as to what they want to do and
Yeah.
why. I think why is a big one. As I
Indeed.
say, especially for the younger athletes who just want to go headlong into, I've got to do this. Well, why? Why have you got to do that?
Yeah.
There's no hard and fast rules, I think, on any of this.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, you've been brilliant. Useful insights there, useful views and thoughts on how people should manage the issues, leading up into the upcoming competitions, and so how coaches and athletes, use the time that we've got, the little time we've got to prepare for that
Mm.
competition, and how people might want to recalibrate their expectations and their strategies, just to go out for a run out. So thank you very much, Mike, for doing that. But what I know is, something that you really are passionate about is coach development. That's why
Yeah.
I invited you to come on this show. But before I let you do that, let's just give you a water break moment. Shall we do that?
You're back.
Well, you've been involved with the development of coaches, for England athletics for many years, and you've served in different roles regarding that. And I know that I've met you in various corridors, and I've seen the passion that you have for assisting coaches and making an input into the development of coaches. And at a time such as this, in our other discussion you had, you said there's there's so much need for new coaches to be coming through the doors, into most clubs, just to help freshen things up a bit and maybe have coaches move on and to the different levels within the coaching pathway. Right. Maybe I'll start off by asking to you, what are the opportunities, what are the barriers, that are there out there to coaching and for coaches from your experience and you're working with coaches?
I think the opportunities it's certainly there. I came into coaching in 30, yeah, was it 30 years ago. I said I only want to coach one night a week. I've been
Yeah.
an athlete, no great distinction. I've been a club and sort of county athlete.
Yeah.
Wanted to give back to the sport. Came in, as I say, just wanted to do one night a week.
Mm.
For me, and I think a lot of others, I quickly gathered I wouldn't be able to do very much with doing one night a week.
Mm.
I think I'm of the, if you're going to do something, do it, or don't do it. Mind you, why then 30 years ago I said only one day a week, I'm not sure, but need to sort of get into it. The opportunity is there, the pathways are there. Obviously, there's various formal qualifications that you can do, and the various levels. The barriers. I'm always interested actually to talk to people about that, because
Mm.
what invariably happens, I think, is for example, parents come in and they go to the first level coaching assistant. So just helping a coach, which is great. We all need assistance to take us another pair of hands, take us through it all.
Yeah.
Um, but then some don't want to progress to that next level, that athletics coach level, and I think sometimes, obviously, if you are coming in as a parent and then your child then doesn't progress, gives up or whatever,
Mm.
it's different. But as I say, I think there are opportunities there's a lot of enjoyment there and
Yeah.
satisfaction and seeing people progress, seeing especially the kids. You see you take somebody on as an 11-year-old, and especially some of the really talented ones,
Yeah.
and you see them progress. But everybody as well. They're growing up, they're developing. You get to know them as people. So there's all of that. As I say, I think a lot of people sort of end up just going, that one level, maybe the other level. Um, Time obviously plays a part. Everyone is busy with work, families. There's all of the outside pressures on
Yeah.
everyone, and obviously the cost of the cost of the qualifications, and two, obviously we're volunteer coaches. It costs to actually coach, to
Yeah.
actually sort of travel to the various competitions and whatever. But
Mm.
I think if you're lucky enough, as I say, to get somebody with talent, I think that takes it to another level as well. Now, both of us have been in that position.
Mm.
You got an extremely talented youngster,
Mm.
and as I say, that I think that takes it up to another level, because I think generally, obviously, as well, the responsibility is
Yeah.
there, which I think possibly is another kind of barrier in people's mind to not not want to kind of progress, and they're trying to hide their like under a bushel type of thing. I'm okay as
Yeah.
an assistant, but I don't want to come up in anywhere in the limelight.
Yeah.
But as I say, if you've got somebody with talent, and you've got that responsibility of
Indeed.
thinking, what
Yeah.
potential have they got? Can I get them there? What help do I need? All of this. Like everything else, I think the more complex the scenario, the more more obviously more challenging,
Yeah.
but more satisfaction you get out of it as well.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. You made mention there, how some coaches, would within the coaching continuum get to a certain level, and they seem to be content with that, just being at that level, and they're not, even though the door is probably open for them to progress to the next level. Um, what do you think, could be some of the issues that, you know, um, that forces, coaches to stay within the same level and not seem to be so keen to move to, a higher level, for which they probably, deserve to do so. What are
Yeah.
what are some of the issues that you found out there?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, I think time is one. People, they're happy to help. They can give some, however many hours or whatever, but
Mm,
think that the higher they go, the more they're going to get embroiled in giving more and more time. And
mm,
obviously, the cost of courses, although clubs will invariably pay somebody who's going to give back then within that club,
mm,
the cost of the courses. I think I think the other thing as well is comfort zones. Again, it's that sort of thing. You start learning, what and you're happy with that, and the thing within the clubs, the club system has got its challenges.
yeah,
Been around for a long time, which is a bit of a double-edged sword.
mm,
um, there's things that happen in clubs sometimes, could be better, better practices. And I think one of
yeah,
the opportunities, again, thinking about what the coaches can do, is reaching out to people, um, to actually, if you see somebody on the same track, talk to them, you
mm,
know, ask them in the best possible way, of course, what are you doing that drill? What's that all about?
yeah,
So you've got to say it in the right way, not the way I kind of say it. If you're querying them, you've got to
yeah,
sort of, but you've got to kind of try and find out. It's
yeah,
such a, especially with sports science nowadays, it's so involved. There's a lot of science around.
mm,
Having said that, I don't make you stand. I'm no scientist. So, I'm certainly no scientist.
mm,
I try and learn as much of the
yeah,
science that I can to have to
mm,
apply that, because you need a bit of physics. I wish I'd listened a bit more in school, to be honest. Uh,
mm,
but yeah, I think it's such a worthwhile thing. And as I say, if you get into it and
yeah,
think about the learning aspects, ask ask as many people for their opinions as you can.
mm,
It gets confusing, can really throw you sometimes. As a
mm,
younger coach, I was at an under 20 national um, national champs the one day, and I asked two Olympic standard coaches
mm,
the same question within half an hour of each other, and I got two diametrically opposed answers.
yeah,
So I think then you think, what the heck do I do now? Well, work it out for yourself in
Yeah.
lots of ways, and try and again research things, understand where people are coming from. The more
Mm,
people you ask, the more ideas you're going to get. And on that particular example, I thought, well, which one do I actually believe, and why again?
mm,
And I come down on one side, I think, well, that's what I believe. That's the way I'm going.
yeah.
Having said that, there's a lot of things I used to do a long time ago that I don't believe particularly in now. So you
Mm,
never stop learning. Again, that's one of the beauties of it all. If it was easy, everyone could do it, and every athlete was going to be, follow Shelley Ann Fraser Price's training schedule and become Olympic champion, then that'd be easy. We just ask the coaches, ask the Jamaican coaches to give us their schedules, and everyone will be Olympic champion next time around.
yeah.
Don't look for that.
Yeah. No, but we all know it doesn't work like that. Yeah, that does it. Right. You mentioned there about, coaches going over to other coaches and asking them, to understand why they are doing certain activities within their coaching program as a way of, extending their own horizons, they're extending their own coaching envelope. What is the role of, you know, peer coaching? What is the role of mentoring, in coaching, as it were, from your experience, vast as it is?
Right, I think that's one of the things that has changed actually in the last sort of dozen 15 years or so.
Mm,
Again, you go along to clubs. It still happens, of course. You go along to clubs in the past, especially, and you've got you see, you've got two sprint groups. You see one over the far side and one over this side, and they don't talk to each other, and they don't
yeah,
particularly get on or whatever.
yeah,
That's the negative pole. The positive side, as I say, I think it's got a lot better, where you don't see so many of those kind of environments where everyone's working in a silo. If people talk, and they do, England Athletics had a national coaching development program as one of the mentors on there. Um, a group that ended up of about 80 coaches on the speed side, speed and hurdles.
mm,
Um, what you learn from the other coaches, what I've learned from you, Stan, as
mm,
well. All the guys on there learning from each other. Well,
yeah,
how do you do such and such? Why do you do it that way? Well, maybe I do it this way. Um, the thing again with a particular subject, it's not an exact science. You're
mm,
dealing with human beings. You're dealing with everyone. All of us are unique on the planet, and you need to understand the particular human that you're
mm,
trying to help. So things differ with that. Everyone's different, but obviously there are principles which all of us talk about. you
mm,
know, uh, but I think that's the way, try and talk it all through, as opposed to, let's say, just sitting in a corner and doing your coaching, and
mm,
you've done particular drills or you've done particular session for the last, you know, 10, 20, whatever years, yeah.
yeah,
You've got to keep on top of this all. It's the science keeps changing.
it does.
Um, the human body doesn't change, but what they find out about it, I suppose, really changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's always, you reflecting on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and of
Mm,
course the big thing of why you're doing it is to help somebody. So if it's not helping somebody, you're doing something, then don't do it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring out the development of the coach from what I would call a lone ranger type of coach into get the one where the modern coach is one that is seeking out other coaches, and exchanging ideas with them and taking out whatever they can glean from the experiences of others to develop their own coaching repertoire. I was having a chat with Frank Dick the other day, and Frank Dick is, he is deep with coach development, as it were, and he shared one notion there about co-opetition, which is that if we know as athletes and as coaches, we compete against each other come competition day. That's fine. But can we not cooperate when we are not competing so that our performances may go up? The results might remain the same. If the guy who's quicker will remain quicker, as it were. But their performance in being quick is bound to go up because we are cooperating with each other during training. And as you pointed out there, you have two sprint groups. One is on the back stretch, the other sprint group is on the other, and never shall the two meet ever at all. And they're just preparing for the same competition. And yet the potential to just increase each other's performance is so much if only they could collaborate and cooperate in training. What's your take on that?
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's the sum of the whole. Then, and if you're everyone's learning, you've got the athletes, as you say, competing against each other, raising the bar, and I think, as you say, for both athletes and coaches, because we get competitive as well, don't we? For sure. It's coaching friends. The athletes have got friends. Again, the young lady who I coached a little while back, who there was all sort of discussions. Her best mate was her biggest rival.
Yeah.
And and then some people, well, hang on, how can I get on so well there? And we're talking 16-year-olds or whatever here as well. So all of the sort of thing about, oh, you shouldn't be friends, and don't agree with that, I'm afraid. Get on with it. Yeah, when you get on the track, you're rivals. You want to beat each other.
Yeah.
But you shake hands. Whoever wins at the end. Well, nowadays you don't shake hands. Don't shake hands at the moment. With all the COVID stuff. But you acknowledge what they bring. I think that's one of Frank Dick's things as well, isn't it? That, acknowledge what your opponents bring to the table, because without them, there isn't a competition. So you can all help each other to get on and push that bar up higher.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Before we leave this, your passion, which is coaching, could you just like to tell, what would you say to parents out there? Most people get into coaching because of their sibling. They've got a child that is involved that likes track and field. They take them to the club. They find out there's an opportunity. They can come along, and start getting their badges that way and develop as coaches as well. What advice would you give, people who are contemplating, getting into coaching and but don't know how to go about it? What would you suggest for them?
Ask, go along to the club. Ask there about what opportunities there are. I think invariably, clubs are crying out for coaches, especially on some of the technical events or the field events. Find out what gaps there might be in what's needed. find out what you can do. Talk to various coaches of what's involved. You know, what am I letting myself in for? Is another thing, isn't it? You know, so, I'm saying, yeah, go into it is great, but you need to find out as a person, is that for me, isn't it? So if you find out from coaches what they're involved
Yeah.
in, you know, how much time it takes and what what they need to do, I think. Then obviously, you know, if they think, well, you know, I can't do that now, or no, that's not for me, then fair enough, isn't it? But if
Mm,
you know, you might think, yeah, let's give that a go. And as I say, I
mm,
think, you know, hopefully then, you know, some will think, well, I don't want to be at, you know, this kind of just assistant level. I want to go up. I want to kind of get the higher qualifications and learn about that. And obviously then you'll get involved in all the development side of things as a coach, as a coach, and really help the athletes. You know, at the end of the day, the sport
mm,
is about the athletes.
yeah.
And the more the coach knows, the better equipped they're going to be to help the
Yeah.
athlete. And that's
Oh,
across a whole range of skills as well, you know. So thinking about, you know, the knowledge and whatever, but, you know, we sort of touched on, you know, saying about communications and dealing with people. You're dealing
mm,
with people. So it's
yeah.
people skills.
Yeah.
First job I ever had was in a bank. You know,
Indeed.
don't know why I had to try to go into
Yeah.
banking, but and one time the director, one of the London directors, came down um, and visited the branch, and he was saying he went into banking because he was good at maths, and he said, "What I need to be now, of course, is good with people. That's the
Mm,
biggest thing, being good with people. So if you've got people skills and you're willing to learn, then the rest can fit in. You don't need to be an expert on biomechanics.
mm,
At first, you learn a bit about that on the way. That's for sure.
yeah. Yeah. Well, Mike, well put there. And as coaches, that's what you know, the core business there is. It's educate, rather coaching the athlete and educating the person, and that, you know, crosses over with brings into play many skills, many different skills that are necessary for, you know, human management, basically, and
Yeah,
you know, to progress them through, not only just to see the knowledge cognitively, but also to translate that knowledge into movement, into motion.
yeah,
And you know, that's the role of the coach, just to help them move from where they are to the person and potentially that they could be. So it's that
yeah.
journey, and it is a journey. That's what it is. And so thanks, Mike, for sharing that. I'm going to give you a water break, but when we come back, we'll talk about the challenges of coaching teenagers, especially, you know, in the current climate.
Mm.
Okay, Mike. Right. Teenagers form, I think, the bulk part, you know, of most clubs, really, and they are an important community within the athletic track and field clubs. And you, in our discussions, you know, posed out a challenge about how the challenge is that that brings, coaching teenagers in itself is a different ball game altogether. But given the current circumstances, that is even compounded, a little bit more. What are the issues, Mike? What are the issues with teenagers in this lockdown, social distancing environment?
Yeah, I think with a lockdown, going to be interesting to see what others think about this, and obviously talking to various coaches. My group, for example, had some. I suppose my group nowadays ranges from, got a couple of older ones as well, but in the teenagers from 15 to 19. So I've got a sort of range of the older teenagers. Some are very good. Some of them are switched on. They know what they're about, and if you send them an email with some training on, you've got a good idea that they're going to do it, and they will give some feedback. And I've even had videos from them, showing them running, so I can see what they're doing. There are others where I'm not even sure they're still on the planet. If I'm honest, there's one lad who just doesn't seem to communicate for whatever reason. Now that could be me. It could be for me, but because I know one of the other lads. If I want to contact the one lad, I go through one of the other lads. Say, can you tell him this, or can you ask him that? It's difficult because this is a situation that nobody has been in before. People are going to view it differently, obviously have their own anxieties and etc. around that. And of course, when they're not in school as well, and they're trying to keep up with their studies or wondering what the heck is going on there, then that's difficult, isn't it? So I think one of the challenges is, though, obviously, is, well, keeping them motivated. And again, think of the individuals and how you're going to motivate them to do some training, and what are they all, aiming for, and then trying to get that feedback from them. Going back to the coaching thing as well, tying that up with this is, if you're planning something. So you've planned some sessions. This is where parents can help as well. When any parents listening, get your sons or daughters to contact the coach and keep in touch with them. Give them some feedback. You produce a plan. You're asking them to do X session and Y session.
Yeah.
Then when you come to plan again, you start thinking, well, did they do those sessions? How did they cope with those sessions? Were they easy? Were they hard? Were they completely on their knees throwing up? You can't work in a vacuum. You've got to have that feedback, and without that, it makes the coach's job so much more difficult. So yeah, trying to keep in touch. It's interesting. I'm all this technology nowadays. I've done more webinars more about this kind of type of technology in 3 months than I have in 30 years or whatever. You think, teenagers are au fait with all the technology. Again, some are, some aren't. Some are very good at answering texts or whatever, but they don't necessarily want to speak to you. And if you send them an email, they think that's out of the arc. So WhatsApp seems to be the medium for some of them. So I suppose there's a lot around knowing how to communicate with them, knowing what's going to press the button that's trying to keep them motivated. And as I say, what I was still sort of thinking thinking back, I suppose it's certainly a long way when I was a teenager, and it's a changed world then. Think of some of the emotions that they're going through, as you say, enhanced really now with all the things that the lockdown brought, and school. Well, what happens to my GCSE results, and
Yeah.
and all of this. So they've obviously sort of got their anxieties there. But as I say, that's where parents come in as well.
Mm. Yeah.
Please, parents, yeah, help us, help us out. Um,
Mm. But you see, thanks, Mike, for that. Teenagers, by their very nature, like to have their mates around. It does help them with their learning processes and all the socialization that's going on, and all the many other, psychological and physical issues that they are going through. They That tends to need a lot of support from their mates, and so in the current climate, there's a shortfall within that. How do coaches manage that? How do you recreate that for them, Mike?
Certainly, sort of done things like, and I know lots of coaches, Zoom sessions and all of these sorts of things. So
Mm,
circuit session via that platform. At least then they can talk to each other um, over the net, over the internet and whatever. Um, I suppose again it gets tricky when you're in this kind of half situation, which we're in at the moment, where you've got
mm,
um, you can only work with 5 individuals, say, and you've got a group of 15. So you need three different groups. Well, splitting that up and you're obviously getting the social bits of that right,
mm.
I think is important as well. So I've been doing like 2 sessions um, on of an evening, one for some of the younger ones, one for some of the older ones.
Yeah.
Some of them have decided they don't want to come back to the track yet for whatever reason, and I think I haven't wanted to pry, if you like, too much on that, because it could be a variety of reasons on that score.
Mm,
So you've got all those different complications, but I think socially, obviously obviously invariably they end up talking to each other a
mm.
lot, as things go on. But obviously, Zoom circuits, Zoom sessions, meetings,
Mm.
meet them online, and how things going. Again, I think some some really happy to do that. Others a little bit more reticent.
Mm.
Again, video, video calls.
Yeah.
Some people, I've had to ring people up, and they don't want to put the video on. They're happy to have a chat, but not
Mm.
to put the video on. Fine, okay. Again, you gotta respect those sort of wishes. So it's dealing again with people and what they want. Hopefully, we're not going to have to go back into this situation, but we might have to think all this through again.
Mm.
Fairly sure. Hopefully not, but it's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Brilliant, Mike. I tell you what, you've been absolutely amazing. The amount of information and experience and the insights and views that you've had on issues there. I'm sure our viewers, you know, found them useful. They found something that they can take on board, and either it's relative to competitions and the season, or for coach development as coaches, or working with teenagers, and how to get the most out of them during this very difficult time. So what's left for me, Mike, is to thank you for coming and thank you for sharing your views so generously. And
Okay. Yes,
what I'm
enjoyed
saying
it.
from me, it's bye-bye. And from Mike,
Cheers, everyone.
cheers. Cheers, yeah. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you on Wednesday night with another, guest. And